Simon & Schuster Audio presents Beyond the White House, Waging Peace, Fighting Disease, Building Hope by Jimmy Carter. Read by the author, with a special appearance by Rosalynn Carter.
The early days. It was just a week after the 1980 presidential election when the blind trustee of our estate, the attorney Charles Kerbo, called from Atlanta and asked to see me. He had become my lawyer when I successfully contested an election stolen from me in 1962. He was a close advisor when I later ran for governor of Georgia and served as chairman of the Democratic Party of Georgia. That day in November, Kerbo shared a cool drink with Rosalynn and me on the Truman balcony of the White House, and after we'd exchanged some family information and a few jokes with a South Georgia flavor, he informed us that he had some good news and some bad news about our family's farm and warehouse business. The good news was that our land was still there and the pine trees were growing. The bad news was that after 3 years of drought and some mismanagement, Carter's warehouse was $1 million in debt. Because we had pledged to remove ourselves completely from any involvement in or knowledge of our personal investments or business affairs, this was the first financial accounting that Rosa and I had received since we moved to Washington. We were surprised and appalled. We had left a thriving farm supply business, free from debt, and we'd assumed that it had continued to be a lucrative investment. We returned home about 2 months later with 2 heavy financial burdens, the lesser of which was to pay our accumulated business debts. More burdensome by far was my obligation to select a site and build a presidential library that could house almost 27 million official documents and papers, plus millions of photographs, visual records, and other mementos accumulated during my administration. Always a poor fundraiser, and now a defeated candidate for re-election who had made no plans for this all-too-early eventuality, I dreaded the prospect of raising the necessary funds, which had to come from private contributions. The prolonged holding of our hostages by Iranian militants had not made me the most popular ex-president to survive his White House years. In a somewhat naive moment soon after Election Day, I had told the White House press corps that I intended to emulate President Harry Truman and refrain from using my service in office as a means of enriching myself. I had said, quote, "There may be some kinds of benevolent or nonprofit corporations in which I will let my influence and..."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?